Okay, I think we're live. So thanks everybody just for following our newsletter and for encouraging us and praying for us. We really appreciate it. It's great. And I just thought I'd catch up with my friend Jeff today. Jeff is in Ontario, in Canada, very close to Niagara there. And Jeff's a senior pastor of Harbour Fellowship, doing a great job over there. And Jeff came and spent almost 3 weeks with me just over a year ago in that season when I was doing 30 days in the harvest in England. So Jeff came over, spent some time with us, stayed in our house, and we got to know each other a bit then and had a great time. So Jeff, what really just led you to come spend that time with us here in the UK?
Yeah, no, Russell, thanks for letting me do this. I think what was in my heart and still continues to be in my heart is how little we are seeing people actually trust Christ in a church context. I know in Canada, the numbers of evangelical Christians are getting smaller each year. And so really what was burdening my heart was to see a plentiful harvest, as Jesus says, the harvest is plentiful, and just not seeing that happen. So I found you. And you were gracious enough to invite me into your home. First time we met, you did that. But I originally came just with the hope of learning some simple tools where we could expand what we were doing as far as sharing the gospel. And then when I came, I learned so much more. It wasn't just how we share the gospel, but how do we door knock? How do we engage with people and walking up on the street? But then also, how do you disciple people? How do you begin to gather them? And so really my time with you sort of accomplished my original goal, which was how to be a better evangelist. But then I was able to see the whole big picture vision of how we could really multiply churches everywhere across our province.
Wow. Well, we had a great time together. I thoroughly enjoyed it. And there are some good stories from that time. But what's really that's just over a year ago.
Yeah.
So what's sort of happened in Harbour Church since you've gone back then?
Yeah. Well, when I left, the church knew I was passionate for evangelism and we were doing evangelism, but I came back even more passionate. And so what we began to do as a church, or I began to do, was just go out and knock on doors or do walk-ups, engage with people in our downtown area. Didn't try to change the church. We just said, let's go out and let me just go out, or whoever will come with me, and let's just start sharing the gospel. And so the strategy was really, let's just have it be like yeast to sort of slowly work its way through the church. So we go out, two of us, take a picture, put it on social media, and people would begin to ask what we were doing. About a year ago, if we had 4 people out on the harvest, 2 teams of 2, we would have been thrilled at that number. But as the months went on, and as we saw people trust Christ, and by God's grace, just about every week now, we're seeing someone trust Christ. And Russell, every time it happens, I think to myself, this is a miracle of God. This will never happen again in my entire time at Harbour. And then the next week, here it comes again. Some way, some person has trusted in Christ. So some of those have been through in the harvest. Many of those have just been through what we call Share Jesus, people sharing Jesus in their relational network. And so we've seen this increase in the number of people trusting Christ by God's grace. We've seen more people be baptized, more people being discipled. And that has, just like yeast, sort of filtered out into many areas of our church. And people around us are seeing our boldness, and we're seeing other Christians who really want to live for Christ joining us. And so it's really been just a year of God's grace where we're sensing God has been very merciful to us. So hopefully that helps give a little picture.
No, that's wonderful. That's great to hear. And those stories never get old, never get tired, sharing the gospel and seeing people turn and trust Christ and, follow up with discipleship is just amazing to see. So is there one story you could share maybe from, the last few weeks or a month just to finish off for us?
Yeah, so I'm thinking of almost a year ago, a friend of mine, his name is Joe, and I'd known him for 17 years. He knew me as a pastor. We had talked many times about faith. But I came back from my time with you. And one of the values of being out on the harvest so regularly is you just get so comfortable and competent and confident in sharing the gospel using the 3 circles tool. So came back, met with Joe at a coffee shop, And God had prepared him. He was in a real spot of brokenness, shared the gospel with him. And right there in that Tim Hortons, we call it, it's the name of a Canadian hockey player, the coffee shop, he trusted Christ, prayed a prayer right there in the coffee shop. That was about a year ago. Joe and I have met almost every week since then. But the next week he came back, and as he was talking about his life and his future, I could tell something was different. And I said to him, I said, Joe, what's changed? And he said, well, I prayed this prayer last week and just my perspective has changed. I now trust in God with my future. And I could tell right away that God was just working and changing him. But Joe has so grabbed a hold of the gospel, Russell, and it's just God is working in his life. He now has brought 4 other people to our group. All 4 of those people have come, heard the gospel message, and trusted in Christ as well. Yeah, wow. So Joe has seen this multiplication of 4 people. There's another guy who's been coming who had already trusted Christ, and he's looking to get baptized. One of the guys that did come, Luke was his name. He came, trusted Christ, was with us for a season, and then even asked Joe to baptize him. So he did that in my home in the pool. And so that was great for me to have baptized Joe and then Joe to baptize Luke. Now, the interesting thing about all 5 of those people, it's still a little bit messy. And again, people could pray for them. Those stories aren't turning out the way we all would like them to be. But Joe and I, we keep meeting on Monday nights. He's not discouraged at all. He understands what's happening. He's praying for these guys that they will understand how good Christ is and be following him. And so we've continued on in that way. And at times I've thought, oh, is this worth it doing it? But it's really been Joe's heart and his passion. No, Jeff, we need to keep meeting. We need to help other people find Jesus. So that's my every Monday night, Russell. It's been such a joy just to see how the gospel has spread from Joe to other people. And we're praying that God would continue to solidify some of those prayers that were prayed and just continue to grow our little group together.
Oh, fantastic. Thanks, Jeff. And I've heard you say many times, just quoting the words of Jesus there, the harvest truly is plentiful. And it really is just everywhere. Yeah. We're finding. So thanks for those stories. Thanks for all you're doing. It's great to stay connected. We'll be praying for you. And thanks everyone for just following our newsletter. I hope you enjoyed these stories. If we can serve you or help you in any way, we'd love to. God bless everyone.